Meant to do a piece on Steve Bessent's Sunday interview about the state of the economy, and I got on a tangent about Donald Trump's lavish Great Gatsby style party, how the Trump regime wants to live in lavish opulence. They want to live it up on our taxpayer dime. All the grift and all of the corruption when Donald Trump promised he would fix the economy on day one, that he would make America great on day one, that he would make everybody prosperous. He was going to restore the prosperity of this nation, and working class people weren't going to have to struggle so hard. That's what he told conservative voters, and so many of them believed him. And grocery prices being up 40%, that's not convincing them. Well, it is. Okay, first of all, the things that Donald Trump is doing to wreck this country, more and more people are peeling off from MAGA every day, right? We all see them make their little testimonials like, please forgive me. There was that WWE wrestler who came out just a couple of days ago that was like, I was a huge Trumper, and you guys, I low-key think he's the Antichrist now, and I was wrong. There are Trumpers all the time that are like, I have been hoodwinked. I've been lied to. I was promised something that I now realize he's never going to deliver. And that's awesome. But there's a lot of Trumpers for whom, and we need more of those folks, but there's a lot of Trumpers for whom, like, the confirmation bias is so strong. They're not hearing any factual information. They're just listening to Fox News propaganda, and they are reading Donald Trump's Truth Social posts. They don't have access to any accurate information. Their worldview is so skewed, right? They live in a separate reality from us. And they will constantly move the goalpost to justify what dear leader is doing. They don't care that grocery prices are up 40%. They don't care that they can't afford to buy coffee. They don't care that suddenly their kids can't get student loans for college. I mean, a lot of them are trying to tell their children they shouldn't go to college because it'll poison your brain. It'll make you woke. They don't care that utility prices are up all over the country. They don't care that the jobs numbers are terrible. They will spin it and justify it. Like Elon Musk and Donald Trump both have told MAGA voters there has to be a period of pain and suffering. You have to suffer for a while. And now, just this past weekend, we heard Mike Johnson and J.D. Vance both say that Americans are going to suffer. They are going to suffer more. But Donald Trump promised prosperity on day one. It's the economy, stupid. Isn't that what Republicans say? It's all about the economy, that they don't really care about all of these other issues as much as they care about the economy. In fact, establishment Democrats tell us that as well, right? Like voters really, really care about the economy. It always comes back to the economy. So let's hear what Donald Trump's guy on the economy, Steve Bessent, had to say in an interview on Sunday, November 2nd.
This week, the Fed voted to lower interest rates another quarter of a point to its lowest level in 3 years. However, the central bank's newest official, Stephen Myron, is warning that if the Fed doesn't continue to lower interest rates rapidly, the U.S. could face a recession. Do you agree that the U.S. is at risk of facing a recession?
I believe that we are in a transition period here, as we are seeing the Trump administration has cut back on government spending, Jake. What has gone unnoticed during the shutdown is for the fiscal year that ends September 30th, the government spent less than it did the year before, and because the GDP grew, the GDP, which had been 6.4, the deficit to GDP, which had been 6.4, 6.5% deficit, the highest when we weren't at war, weren't in a recession ever, we were able to bring it down to 5.9%. So we are bringing down government spending, and I would think that the Fed would want to assist with that, because if we go back and look, MIT just published a study that said 42% of the great inflation of 2022 came from excess government spending. So if we are contracting spending, then I would think inflation would be dropping. If inflation is dropping, then the Fed should be cutting rates.
But do you think that the U.S. is at risk of a recession if the Fed does not continue to drop rates?
I think that we are in good shape, but I think that there are sectors of the economy that are in recession, and the Fed has caused a lot of distributional problems with their policies. I wrote a 7,000-word essay on that.
Oh, love that
we've
for you.
seen
The
biggest hindrance for housing here that are mortgage rates. So, if the Fed brings down mortgage rates, then they can end this housing recession. Low-end consumers.
Oh God, that's enough. I also can barely tolerate Jake Tapper. Where's your book on Donald Trump's dementia, Jake? I'm not an economist, but even I could tell that Scott Bessent was absolutely full of shit, except for that part of the interview where he had to actually, he got backed into a corner and he kind of had to own it, that sectors of the US economy are in a recession. Donald Trump said he was going to make America great again. Donald Trump said he was going to make the economy so prosperous. He's been saying all year, oh, the economy is doing great. It's doing fabulous, despite the jobs numbers looking like this, despite Trump's approval rating looking like this, despite the value of the dollar falling, our power internationally falling, despite the fact that businesses are struggling everywhere, despite the fact that there are more people looking for jobs than there are available jobs. We have heard the regime gaslight the shit out of us and try and tell us that the economy is fabulous, it's booming, everything's wonderful. And yet today, Scott Bessent had to own it. He had to admit, I'm sure he's getting raked over the coals back, from the White House staff, back as he scurried back, like, oh shit, why did you say that we're in a recession? Well, because he knows that we are in one, right? They can only obfuscate so long. Let's not forget, under Joe Biden, he took an economy that he inherited from Trump that was just a disaster because of COVID and a bunch of other stuff. And Joe Biden had to deal with COVID and all of the economic ramifications of that. And yet he left with a more prosperous America. And I'm saying that as somebody who doesn't fucking like Joe Biden. I did not like him. I had to hold my nose and vote for him. Fuck him for everything he did, refusing to step down after he said he'd be a one-term president, or he flirted. He hinted at it to all of his staff. He never made a public declaration, but he hinted at it. He scuttled Kamala's run by waiting so long to get out of the race. Whenever Trumpers are like, "Oh yeah, what about Joe Biden?" I'm like, I don't give a shit. I never liked Joe Biden. But I can look at the numbers and be like, wow, Donald Trump is destroying an economy that was somewhat functional. Yeah, things were not great. Oligarchs were consolidating power. The quality of life for your average working class American was reduced in late stage capitalism. But now it's just in the toilet. We're in a recession. Donald Trump said he was going to make everything great. He was going to magically fix everything and make America prosperous and wonderful. And they're going to keep gaslighting us, despite Scott Bessent being forced to say the truth out loud in front of Jake Tapper. They're going to try and gaslight us into thinking that we're somehow prosperous when we know that we're not. People can't feed their children. People can't pay their rent. People are losing their jobs. People are despairing. And the regime lives in disgusting luxury, throwing Great Gatsby-style parties. Donald Trump spent $60 million golfing so far, our taxpayer money golfing. The super rich are getting richer and richer. We're all struggling harder and harder, and they're like fucking going to Jeff Bezos's wedding where he rents out an entire city in Italy. They're flaunting their wealth in our faces. They're rubbing it in our faces while they try to gaslight us into believing that everything is fine and we should accept this as what we deserve, as like an acceptable standard of living for Americans. Their whole ethos is wealth and luxury for me, but not for thee. Medical care for me, but not for thee. Food for me, but not for thee. Housing for me, but not for thee. A retirement for me, but not for thee. You'll be that Walmart greeter till the end of time while we make sure that we cut off food stamps and that there's no Social Security left for you. Just accept this. This is fine. America's great now. Everything's great. Forget that Scott Bessent said that we're in a recession. Forget that Scott Bessent said the numbers can't lie. After all, Donald Trump just loves to fire people that tell him the truth, right? He fired the job statistician whose job it was to tell the American people factually what the job numbers are. He didn't want to hear the truth. Malignant narcissists cannot handle criticism. They blame the messenger. So he is perfectly happy to gaslight himself and to refuse to accept truth. He's going to keep gaslighting you. The regime is going to keep gaslighting you. But you heard it. You heard it from the Treasury Secretary. He had to admit it. Fucking Jake Tapper, we're in a recession. Multiple sectors of the economy are already in a recession. This regime was never going to make America great. Gave up your constitutional rights. You allowed Donald Trump to put his troops in our cities, to brutalize our neighbors, to throw American citizens to the ground, to zip-tie children, to trample on the rights of every American because you thought he was going to make the economy great. And now we're in a recession.